Ladies and gentlemen, the internet never forgets. The receipts are being pulled, the archives are being dusted off, and right now, as we speak, every single word Kelsey Mitchell has ever uttered about Caitlin Clark is being dissected, analyzed, and put under a microscope. The timing could not be more precarious. Free agency is looming, the expansion draft is coming, and the Indiana Fever are staring down a moment that will define their franchise for years to come. Let that sink in. Let it marinate. Because what we are witnessing right now is not just a typical offseason. This is a pressure cooker. This is a crucible. And every comment, every interview clip, every side-eyed remark from the past is coming back to haunt the people who made them. We need to have a very serious conversation about what is happening in Indianapolis, because the dynamics at play here are far more complicated than the average fan realizes. The CBA is done, sealed, signed, delivered. We are getting a 2026 season. That much is settled. But the real drama, the real tension, the real story that is about to consume the entire month of April, that is the Indiana Fever roster. And specifically, it is the question of Kelsey Mitchell. What are they going to do with her? Will Kelsey Mitchell be paid like a Supermax player by the Indiana Fever? Some people are saying absolutely yes. She has earned it. She has been the heartbeat of that franchise for years. But there is a substantial contingent of people putting a giant question mark next to that statement. They are not so sure. They are looking at the landscape. They are looking at the relationship dynamics. They are looking at the comments resurfacing online. And they are wondering if this marriage is destined to end.
This part that I respected about Caitlin is that she never was bigger than the program.
Yeah, the time I've spent with Caitlin, like she definitely has like, oh, you're like my little sister.
Yes.
Because she likes to like, talk about
She plays a
basketball
lot.
and kind of troll a little bit.
My
Yeah,
goodness.
exactly.
You're talking about a kid in the candy store? That's Caitlin.
Yeah. When you think about like your team in the last couple years, right? We'll say the obvious. Caitlin joins the team, a lot more eyeballs, a lot more scrutiny, a lot of conversation about like what it's like for you guys in your locker room. So what do you think, or do you feel like people sometimes just like overlook your leadership specifically and your impact on the team from like a chemistry standpoint, because there's just so many narratives? So like, do you think people are overlooking that?
I think that in a short, yeah. I think naturally, yes, because of the society, the social media, and how bad people take to social media and abuse it for in the wrong realm of light. And so I think that's one part of it. But I also think that it was an adjustment period. And I talked to the FIFA organization about this. It's like I think it was an adjustment period that we all should have adjusted to throughout the course of the organization. I think that that was big for everybody. Pacers Entertainment, FIFA organization. I felt like at that time there was a lot of role playing that had to be situated. I feel like when something that big or someone that big who has that much impact comes into something, there are a lot of adjustments that people have to make on the floor, off the floor, in the locker room, in the training room. Just a lot of stuff, is a lot of moving parts. And I think the biggest part that I respected about Caitlin is that she never was bigger than the program. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, it wasn't like she wasn't trying to take over. It wasn't, I don't know how to explain that. You know what I'm trying to say though?
Yeah, no, I know what you're trying to say. It's like she knows who she is. She comes in. She's going to obviously do her part because that's what being a professional athlete is. But with the understanding of fitting into a team, making sure we fit, making sure we have chemistry. So it's never bigger than like the group
it's like
itself.
She wasn't trying to be bigger than everybody. Like within our locker room, she wasn't trying to be bigger than anyone else. And I think the way that her style of play, it ended up complimenting me, ended up complimenting AB. And so like, the one thing I love about Caitlin too is that we all love basketball the same way. We all have our different styles of way of playing it, but the passion for it with Caitlin, when she didn't play compared to when she did play, remained the same. And like, I respected that about her because it could have easily not been that way. You have people that come in and not want to do or buy in once it's not, or once it don't go their way, or once unfortunate things happen and you can't play and injury happens and you're not getting your body the way you want to. And so I can respect the fact that she kept the program, and she didn't let her passion for it waver, because she ended up pouring in more than she thought. And it was dope because she could have easily not been that person.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I would build on what I was saying and add from what I'm hearing from you is like, she was like that way in the locker room too.
Yes. Yeah. Like
it
was like she wasn't trying to you could easily be a certain way, and her thing was just like giving her best. Like she gave us like her best when she was in the locker room.
Yeah, the time I've spent with Caitlin, like she definitely has like, oh, you're like my little sister.
Yes.
Because she likes to talk about basketball and kind of troll a little bit. Yeah,
goodness.
Exactly.
You talk about a kid in the candy store, that's Caitlin.
Yeah.
Tutu, she is, but in a good way. She's a live light. And she her personality shows in her game, and it's dope for her.
Apiece. Naz Hillman with 14 of her 16 in the second half. And Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell in Indiana.
Here is the reality of the situation. The Indiana Fever are about to navigate some treacherous waters. First, you have the expansion draft coming. Teams are going to be picking at rosters like vultures on a carcass. Decisions will need to be made about who to protect and who to expose. After that gauntlet, free agency hits. Sophie Cunningham is on the market. That is a significant piece, but she is not the headline. The headline is Kelsey Mitchell, and every front office executive, every analyst, every fan with a keyboard is trying to figure out what the Fever are going to do. Now let us add another layer to this already complicated situation. The relationship between Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark. This is the elephant in the room that everyone is dancing around, but nobody wants to address head-on. For months, we have heard rumblings. We have seen the family members of Kelsey Mitchell speaking online, posting things that generate negative headlines. I am not saying they do not have the right to express themselves. They absolutely do. But when they speak, they make their feelings known in no uncertain terms. And sometimes, in the world of professional sports, in the world of managing public perception, some things are better left unsaid. A few weeks ago, there was a glimmer of hope. Caitlin Clark posted a photograph on Instagram featuring herself, Kelsey Mitchell, and Lexi Hall. It was a display of camaraderie. It was a message to the world that said, "We are together, we are unified, we are a team." And for a moment, the narrative shifted. People thought maybe the drama was overblown. Maybe the reports of tension were exaggerated. Maybe these two could coexist and thrive. But then the old comments started resurfacing. Someone on Twitter did the detective work. They tracked down podcast footage. They found the clips. And now, Kelsey Mitchell's previous statements about Caitlin Clark are circulating again, right at the worst possible time, right when the front office is making decisions about her future, right when the perception of team chemistry is paramount. This is going to be a pivotal moment for the Indiana Fever in the next coming weeks. There is no way around it. The decisions made in the next 30 days will reverberate for seasons to come. And here is where it gets even more complicated. Stephanie White, the head coach, has been on record countless times declaring that this is Kelsey Mitchell's team. She has said it publicly, she has said it emphatically. She has made her position clear. But what happens when the new CBA requirements come into play? What happens when the financial landscape of the league shifts? What happens when you have a player in Caitlin Clark who generates more attention, more revenue, more merchandise sales than anyone else on the roster? At some point, someone in that organization is going to have to answer a fundamental question. Will Stephanie White finally turn the team over to Caitlin Clark? Will she finally build an offense strictly around Caitlin's attributes, around her strengths, around her unique ability to put fans in seats and eyeballs on screens? Or will she continue to cater to Kelsey Mitchell, to maintain the structure that existed before Caitlin arrived? To me, that is the conversation that needs to happen behind closed doors with the Indiana Fever front office and with Stephanie White. It is not a comfortable conversation. It is not a conversation anyone wants to have, but it is a necessary conversation. Because you cannot serve two masters. You cannot build around two stars when they occupy similar positions and have potentially conflicting needs. You have to make a choice. And that choice is coming whether they are ready for it or not. Now, let me address the coaching situation, because there is a faction of fans who want Stephanie White gone immediately. Check any comment section. Look at the social media posts. People are calling for her head. They are saying she has mismanaged the roster. They are saying she has failed to maximize Caitlin Clark's potential. They are saying she is too loyal to the old guard at the expense of the future. I am not ready to throw in the towel on Stephanie White yet, and here is why. Last year was a disaster in terms of injuries. Everyone got hurt. The roster was decimated. They were playing with replacement players for significant stretches of the season. And despite all of that, despite the adversity, despite the obstacles, they almost made it to the finals. Almost. That tells me something. That tells me Stephanie White can coach, at least somewhat. You do not get that far with a broken roster if you have no idea what you are doing. Remember, Caitlin Clark herself was dealing with injuries. The team was held together with duct tape and prayers. And yet they competed. They fought. They came within striking distance of the biggest stage in the league. For them to make it as far as they did with the circumstances they faced, that is incredible. That is coaching. That is resilience. That is refusing to accept defeat. So before we sharpen the pitchforks and light the torches, let us give Stephanie White a chance to operate with a healthy roster. Let us see what she can do when she has all her pieces. Let us see how she manages the Mitchell-Clark dynamic when she is not constantly scrambling to replace injured players. But that does not mean she is off the hook. It does not mean she gets a free pass. The expectations are through the roof now. The CBA is finalized. The league is growing. The Fever are positioned to be one of the premier franchises in the WNBA. And with that position comes responsibility. Stephanie White needs to demonstrate that she can evolve. She needs to show that she can adapt to the reality that Caitlin Clark is not just a player, she is a phenomenon. She is the engine that drives the interest. She is the reason casual fans are tuning in. If Stephanie White continues to insist that this is Kelsey Mitchell's team, while Caitlin Clark is generating record-breaking viewership, there will be a reckoning. The fans will demand change, the front office will face pressure, and ultimately, someone will have to blink. The question is, who will it be? Will Kelsey Mitchell accept a reduced role? Will she embrace being the Robin to Caitlin's Batman? Or will she demand to be paid like a supermax player and expect to remain the centerpiece of the offense? If she chooses the latter, can the Fever afford to meet those demands while also investing in the supporting cast that Caitlin Clark needs to truly flourish? These are not hypothetical questions. These are the questions that will determine the trajectory of this franchise, and they need to be answered soon. The expansion draft is first. That is the immediate hurdle. Protect your core. Lose what you can afford to lose. Navigate that minefield without blowing off a limb. Then comes free agency. Sophie Cunningham is out there. Other players are out there. Pieces that could complement Caitlin Clark are available. But you need cap space. You need flexibility. You need to make tough decisions. And Kelsey Mitchell is the toughest decision of all. If you pay her the supermax, you are committing to her. You are saying she is the foundation. You are telling Caitlin Clark, whether explicitly or implicitly, that she is not the #1 priority. Is that the message you want to send to the player who single-handedly elevated your franchise into the national spotlight? If you let Kelsey Mitchell walk, you are taking a risk. You are betting that Caitlin Clark can carry the load. You are betting that the supporting cast you assemble will be enough. You are betting that the chemistry issues, real or perceived, were significant enough to justify the departure. There is no easy answer. There is no safe choice. Both paths have peril. Both paths have promise. And the Indiana Fever front office is sitting at the crossroads right now, map in hand, trying to figure out which direction leads to a championship and which direction leads to disaster. The comments are going to keep resurfacing. The clips are going to keep circulating. The pressure is going to keep mounting. April is going to be one of the most intense months in Indiana Fever history. And when the dust settles, when the decisions are made, when the contracts are signed or not signed, we will know exactly what this franchise values. Do they value loyalty to the past, or do they value investment in the future? Do they believe Kelsey Mitchell is essential to their success, or do they believe Caitlin Clark can be the singular star around whom everything else revolves? The clock is ticking, the calendar is turning, and the Indiana Fever are about to show the world who they really are. Keep your eyes on this situation, keep the notifications on, keep refreshing the feeds, because every day between now and the resolution of free agency is going to bring new developments, new comments, new drama. This story is just getting started, and the ending is far from written. What do you think? Should the Fever pay Kelsey Mitchell the supermax? Should they commit to building around Caitlin Clark? Is Stephanie White the right coach to navigate this transition? Get down in the comments and let your voice be heard. Because the decisions that are about to be made will shape this franchise for a decade, and every fan has a stake in the outcome. Until next time, keep watching, keep analyzing, and remember, in the world of professional sports, the receipts always come due. Always.